Live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Podium's coverage of the 2023 ERA Omega Cup Springbowl from the World Center of Racing. Well, as we get ready to watch this Omega Cup Spring Bowl live here on Podium Esports, we want to welcome you first into the broadcast booth. We're alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko. Happy to be joined, as always, by Jesse Owuji tonight, alongside with DJ Clark. Our producer downstairs is Ryan Bauer. As always, we're using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And Jesse, I'll go to you first. The legacy of the ERA continues into another season. We're back with another Spring Bowl, and on a popular place for the last couple of weeks, both here on the service and in real world, at the best track I think on the calendar ever. We're going plate racing tonight at Daytona.
Plate racing it is. It's going to be a really exciting time. Looking forward to seeing basically what these drivers are going to bring to this table today. All we've heard about for the last couple weeks now, whether it's real life or reading on iRacing, it's Daytona. It's a super fast track. These drivers are going to be going anywhere from 190 to 200 miles per hour on the track, but in the virtual world where, hey, maybe, if you make a mistake, you're not going to get hurt in real life. But if you make a mistake, it could cost you the opportunity to win $4,000. And that's not 4,000 iRacing credits. It's not $4,000 in gift cards. That's $4,000 hard, cold cash that these drivers virtually from home, in their room, in their sim, get the opportunity to win today. And even if you don't win first, and you get second, third, fourth, fifth, you name it, there's still prize money for those positions. So everybody's going to be fighting for every single spot they can. Everybody wants to get highlighted. Everybody wants that shine. Everybody knows that all eyes are on them tonight here in our ERA Spring Bowl, and it's about to be an amazing race.
Hey, that's what the drivers are thinking as well, DJ, is show me the money, right? I mean, I talk about how there's been major events here at Daytona on the sim the last 2 weeks. The iRacing Daytona 500, the eNASCAR race, none of those had a $5,000 purse like we have here tonight in this Spring Bowl, and that's going to be represented with all of the big names that have come out in tonight's field.
It certainly is. We have got some of the best AM drivers in the field coming out here today. We've got a couple of black stripes putting their name in as well, those professional drivers to be able to put themselves on. It is going to be very hectic up at the front of the field, I have to think. And with only 60 laps in store for everybody, I think controlled aggression is going to be the name of the game around here today. You want to make those moves to get yourself up to the front of the field, but you do not want to be a part of the infamous big one.
That's the thing, Jesse, is, when you go in a league race, right, or NASCAR racing, professional league racing on the service where you have teammates, Daytona is a very team-focused racetrack, right? You got your buddies. You're going to try to work together to get points. That's not the case here. Of course, we talk about the ERA calendar and all of these events being part of a larger season, but your teammate ain't going to get paid out unless you got some side hustle agreement on the side if you win this race, right? So it is going to be very competitive, and really every man for himself out there on track tonight, which means I think it's going to be a crazy 60 laps.
You're absolutely correct. And yeah, once you got some side agreements with some people, it's going to be really difficult to really find friends during this race. But you might be able to find a couple people who are like, hey, if we just stay along the same track, or if we keep just doing the same thing together, work together, maybe all three of us will push our ways up forward so that we can get first, second, and third, and all be in the prize money section of the finishing. Now, with that being said, everybody's it's this whole every man for themselves type deal. So you might have some friends for a little bit, but when it gets to that final 5 laps or so, and everybody's just sitting there fighting tooth and nail, things will change. You might not have any more friends. People won't help you the way they were helping you before. Everybody wants that money, and they're going to do everything possible to win that money. Now, first place, $4,000. The next position is like $500, right? So that's a huge gap, a major gap. So what are people going to do to make that one last spot? What are they willing to do? What friendships are willing to be lost over this? We'll find out.
It's a fair question to ask. You're right. $4,000 going to the race winner tonight. $500 to second, $250 to third, and then $150 and $100 for the drivers inside of the top 5. And DJ, talk about some of the big names that are here in tonight's field. You are on the radio with one of them, and that's Bobby Zelensky.
I am indeed Bobby, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver here for Joe Gibbs Racing. You're qualified, it looks like, third. How are you feeling tonight?
Yeah, I'm just ready to test my luck and hopefully have some good luck and get a win out of this, get some money. It's Daytona. You never know how it's going to go, but I always like my chances when we come to a track like this.
Well, what really separates it out here? I mean, you talk about the luck factor. Obviously, with restrictor plate racing, you've got the sort of momentum lines around here. But what can you, as the driver, do to prepare yourself to be able to take on a track like this?
Yeah, it's just like preparing is just understanding when the line is going, when it's not. If the guy pushing whatever line it is, the second car in line, if he's been pushing so long that he's going to start getting hot, so then the other line starts going. When the outside line gets going as well is a big thing. You don't want to be caught on the bottom when the outside gets this massive train going. Those are more so worries early, and then if it's the very end and we have like a green white check, or it's just a free for all. So like, I just try to use the skills I've acquired over the years and use to win races like this, and hopefully I got the luck.
Well, you kind of led into my next question perfectly. I was going to ask you if you think the high lane is going to continue to have some increased momentum around here. That's what we've seen in the Podium 500. It's what we've seen in multiple other rounds. Do you think that high lane is going to keep up that strong side here today?
Yeah, it's technically the slower route, but you just have so much more side draft on the right side of the car than the left, so that bottom just gets hurt so badly. And then if you're three wide, it's like the middle is just really bad. Um, it just depends. Like if the bottom has the front two pushing really well, in the Coke race we had this, we were able to just like stay leading on the bottom. But if those front two aren't pushing well and doesn't have a lot of support from the third car, then that's when the high line comes really good.
Well, Bobby, I don't want to keep you too long because we know you've got a race to prepare for. Thanks for hopping in with us, and good luck out there.
Thanks.
All right, that was Bobby Zelensky joining us up here in the booth. Evan, he is just talking there that there's going to be a little bit of luck involved, but I think he's got a little bit more than luck on his side.
And no surprise, he qualified well, by the way. He started second in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race here at Daytona last week. He's starting third tonight. He is looking to get his second ERA win. He won the 2022 Summer Bowl at Road America. We talk about those big names, though, Jesse, those notable eNASCAR figures. But the beautiful thing about the eRacing Association is that anybody else could race in and have an opportunity to win this race. And you're trackside with another one of our drivers, talking with Raul Alves.
Raul, how does it feel? How does it feel, Raul, to have the opportunity to be here in this ERA Omega Cup event? I mean, you're here with a lot of great drivers. You're here at Daytona. Anybody can win. Anything can happen. And guess what? You didn't have to travel anywhere to make this happen. You're in your home. Looks like you're in your living room, and you're competing with all these great drivers with a lot of opportunity to win some money. So how does it feel?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's always good to see big names, see a lot of the Coke drivers. Looking forward to run up there with them. I will run up there with them. I know they can get aggressive, but I'm ready to be aggressive. Right back, I've run with a lot of them, so I have a lot of trust in them. But I'm ready to get my elbows up and rough them up.
I love that. Get your elbows up and rough them up. That's going to be pretty awesome. Just make sure you stay clean enough to get to the end of the race, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. We're definitely gonna get to the end, and got to get the win. Got to get the win tonight, and anything outside of that will be disappointment. So I'm going to go for it.
Now, Raul, what was it like in your preparation to get ready for this event, whether it was leading up to the heat racing days or even today?
Just running laps, just getting comfortable with people around me. I mean, this car gets loose after so many laps, so it's just really pack racing. My heat race was relatively calm. We had a lot of single file. I know we had to get top 5, but I was hoping to get side by side just to get the feel for the car a little bit better. But I mean, no better way to get it other than the race.
That's absolutely correct. Sometimes the best training, sometimes the best learning lessons will just happen straight up in the race. You don't really get the opportunity to practice against a lot of people next to them side by side, unless it's, during the week, for any particular iRacing weekly races. But besides that, you're really kind of on your own training. So it's great to have you here. I'm looking forward to seeing you run well here. You have a beautiful paint scheme. Do you have any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, huge thanks to Sim Shop. They've been with me for a few months, and they always have my back. So more things to come from them, but they're huge supporters of mine, and happy to bring them on board.
Well, tonight might be your night. You might be able to give them some shine in victory lane. You have every opportunity in the world to make it happen with all these great drivers out here. So good luck. Have a good time. I look forward to seeing how you finish.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Back up to you, Evan.
It's a quick word with Raul Alves, who will start tonight's field of 40 in 26th position. With that said, though, qualifying has already drawn to a close, so we are moments away from dropping the green flag. We'll step aside for a moment. Thanks for watching the ERA Omega Cup Spring Bowl pre-race show. When we come back, we'll say let's go racing from Daytona.
Do you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out someone just to give the gap sauce? Well, you should check out the Gapum app. Gapum is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events. And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gapum Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gapum app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack. Gapum is a one-stop shop for the car world. Looks like I just got a match on the Gapum app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans. Ready, set, Gapum.
Back live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway as we are almost set to go racing for tonight's ERA Omega Cup Spring Bowl. And it is at the site that we have had this Spring Bowl, Jesse, for the last 2 years consecutively. We are back at the one and only Daytona International Speedway.
It is definitely the one and only. As we spin down, going from the satellite down, you can see this 2.5 mile oval. Obviously 4 corners, but you have that tri-oval where people get a little bit in trouble there. But the cool thing about this track, with how big it is the banking. 31 degrees of banking here at this track, which is absolutely amazing. It makes for great racing. You can be on the top, the middle, the bottom. We'll see some 3-wide racing here. It's going to get epic, but also everybody from the spectator side usually wants to come and watch the big one. So we'll see how many big ones we get tonight. Hopefully not too many, but it'll definitely happen, and it'll get interesting.
We'll start with 40 cars. I don't know if we'll end with 40 of them, but DJ, endurance has been the theme of a lot of the races at Daytona this week. 500-mile races. That is not the theme tonight. We're talking about a sprint.
Yeah, we very much are. That $5,000 that is up for grabs across the entire field here tonight is going to be decided over the course of that 60 laps, 150 miles around here. Crucially, we're going to have 3 green-white checker attempts, and also, crucially, you will get a fast repair. So if you are involved in that big one and the yellow does come out, you should be able to get yourself back down into pit lane, get a fresh car, and come back out on track. Watch for that being a big storyline here today.
It should be an exciting one from start to finish, Jesse. I think we're just about set to get this 3rd annual ERA Spring Bowl underway.
Amen to that, and I'm looking forward to it. But first, before we get the racing kicked off, we want to kick it over to the beautiful E. Menderlyn Williams as she does our nation's anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, we hand things off to WWE superstar Ted DiBiase Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, sizes, backgrounds, Ted DiBiase Jr. here, former WWE superstar, coming at you tonight, coming in hot, and it is my honor to get this party started tonight. I'm ready to see who's gonna take home the money. So, without further ado, drivers, start your engines!
And we are rolling at Daytona. Let's go down and take a look at your ERA starting grid for this 3rd annual Spring Bowl Spectacular. And it starts with the breaking news already. Matt Busa qualifies on a pole position, but he will start this race from pit road Malik Ray in second position will then be joined by Bobby Zelensky, who slides up from row 2. He'll become your pole sitter. Garrett Maines right there in the number 4 spot. Behind them, a duo of Spencer Burns and Jason Maines. But the eNASCAR leveled talent continues with Logan DeClampett starting 7th tonight, with Nick Robinson to his outside at 8th position. Michael Guest is 9th, and then you've got Pugnowski Hughes in P10, Jesse.
Matthew Baker starting to P11, and we have Austin Edwards in the P12 position. Austin's a great driver. We also have Michael Sturgill starting to P13, Chris James starting in the P14 position, Jason Rajcock starting to P15, and David Sheets starting P16. We got Dean Webb starting to P17, and Briar Labrado starting to P18. We got Jeff Merck starting in P19, and Alex Thurber starting in P20.
Daryl Young is going to be the next car back as we get halfway through the field, alongside with Ron Morris Jr. on row number 11. Roger Buff Sr. and Aaron Smith the second going to be through 24th position. Then it's Douglas Newbiging in 25th position. Raul Alves, talked to him earlier tonight. He's 26th. Julian Ritchie 27th. Ahead of a name that everybody is familiar with, Anthony Alfredo in 28th. It is Nick Jerkovich in 29th. And Jeremy Edwards through our top 30, DJ.
In the 16th row, it's going to be Patrick McQuaid, followed by Jonathan Cofield in 32nd position. 33rd will be Cole Larson, and Aaron Ramon will start to his outside in P34. P35 is going to be Hunter Parsons, followed by Michael Thorpe. Then in row 19 behind them, it'll be Luis Vega and Marcus Zuniga there in P38. P39 will be Devin George, and Jake Balmain will round out your 40-car grid.
It's a look down at the bottom. Only your qualified pole sitter, Matt Busa, has elected to start this race from pit road. So that's 1 on the pit lane, and that is 39 other NASCAR Cup Series cars lined up behind the iRacing pace car as they roll off of turn number 4. Pace car down and in this time. The field in the hands of Bobby Zelensky as we say, let's go racing at Daytona.
Side by side, and I am absolutely loving how clean they're driving so far. It's always fun to watch these cars drive to turn 1, drive to turn 2, 3, 4, all of them just side by side, but staying calm and clean. It's difficult. Some people might be watching, from their TVs, watching from their phones, watching from their computers, and they look at this and it looks like it's easy. All you gotta do is just step on the gas, turn the wheel, and you're good. But it's not easy at all. From this angle, you don't see the pushing that's happening. There's folks who are on your bumper pushing you. There's air that's moving these vehicles around. The draft, sucking you in, pushing you out. All these different things are happening. And by the way, you're trying to block and not let somebody get ahead of you. And you're trying not to lose the draft as well, depending on where you're at in line. There's so many different things happening going on in your mind. And we see some moves being made up front. We're starting to see some 3 wide that might start happening pretty soon. Someone gets left to drive. But all these different things can happen when you're racing, plate racing, at places like Daytona. And we see our first wreck of the night. Oh.
Just as they started to go 3 wide, they're going to wreck through the tri-oval on lap number 3. Several drivers involved: Hunter Parsons, Patrick McQuaid, maybe Luis Vega gets a little bit of that as well as he tries to sidestep through. And DJ, let's take a look at what happened. This all started developing right there. Zelensky goes to the middle. It shuffles things up a little bit, but watch that bright yellow 70 car. It just checks everybody up all at one time. And look out, even the car on pit road gonna get collected in that one.
Yeah, and that's exactly what can happen here in plate racing like that. Really nowhere to go as we take another look here. Look at that 77 machine. A bad bump in front there, just causing a little bit of a wiggle. That's going to force the car down into the 17 machine, and that is what is going to cause that absolute domino effect here. So we take one more look back. This is the danger zone that we've talked about. He's coming through the tri-oval. Getting a bump through the tri-oval can really throw you off, and I think this is the first of, knock on wood, probably more than one we're going to see here tonight.
And Jesse, this goes to your point that it is far more than simply keeping the right foot down and turning the wheel to the left. Some of those subtleties are difficult to experience unless you're actually behind the wheel, right? I think that's why iRacing is such a fun tool for race fans to get as close to real life as they can. You can't be full throttle around every single lap here at Daytona, or you're going to run over the car in front of you. You have to constantly be lifting off of the throttle, maybe dragging the brake a little bit, managing if you're on the outside line, the inside line, managing the gap to the car in front and behind you. And when a checkup like that happens, that I think is a great illustration of how thin that line is, because they went from riding comfortably to wrecking about 6 race cars in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it can happen so quick, especially at places like Daytona and Talladega. And yeah, when you're driving in these packs right here, I mean, sometimes you have a little bit of room, sometimes you don't. I mean, you do got the right foot down all the way, but you know, you have to check up just a little bit so that you can stay off the person in front of you, because yeah, you're going to want to give them a little push here and there, but if you continue to push them, especially through a corner, so through the trial or through, you know, going into turn 1, you know, through turn 3, 4, you name it, if you start pushing in those areas, that's when you can really start getting people loose, because you know, through those corners, people have their wheel turned. When you got it turned and you're getting a nudge from the rear, you're now just causing someone to get a lot more loose than what they want. Well, when someone gets loose, what ends up happening is they slightly, ever so slightly countersteer to help control the vehicle. Well, that little countersteer all of a sudden will move them up the track, and all of a sudden you get into the person next to you, and next thing you know, it's the big one. So all these different things you got to think about when you're on a track like this, and it's just all about being patient and smart. At the end of the day, no reason to really push hard, especially right now. I mean, you got 60 laps, even though it's not a lot of laps. At the end of the day, you got to make it to the end, and you're not going to make it to the end if you're turning people around, you're getting into people, and you're causing wrecks this early. I mean, you're just not going to make it to the end.
Even if it's not a 500-mile race, DJ, all those same rules still apply. You can't win a 60-lap race on lap 5, just like you can't win a 200-lap race on lap 5, but you can certainly lose it. We're taking a look at some of these onboard cameras as well. Devin George looks like he's got an ultra-wide monitor. We just checked in with another driver who had the VR goggles. One of the points we always talk about on these ERA events is the customizability of your at-home sim experience. You could spend a couple $100 on a very basic setup. You could go the Denny Hamlin route and put a spaceship in your basement. You can have fun no matter what kind of setup you have on the sim.
Exactly, and it's one of the things that is really, really great, that the sort of democratization of iRacing here that allows for any sort of setup to be able to come in there. You're able to see the different, not only types of wheels and pedals that drivers have, but the level of detail that they have on their screens. I will say, though, any driver that's going to be running with a single monitor here tonight, they're going to find themselves in a little bit of trouble. You need to be aware of what's going on in your periphery. You need to be able to see where to slot into line. If you want to try to make that move up onto the high line or down onto the low line, that's going to be the big key here, is keeping an eye what's going on out the side of your car.
And we see, as we get doubled up for the restart, that situational awareness going to be oh so helpful, as Marcus Zuniga at the back of the field here, the 37 car. He's going to be lined up way down in 39th position, 1 lap down. Both Zuniga and Balmain a lap down, the 37 and the 83 cars. The 38 cars going to be on the lead lap. And again, maybe the decision by our pole sitter, Matt Busa, to not want to start up there was well-heated caution, Jesse, because he could have been right there in the mix where that caution came from. Instead, he decided to roll from pit road, and yeah, he's technically started first, but maybe the Logitech G Chevy playing the long game and being conservative early, knowing that there might be some accidents before we get down to crunch time.
When he made that decision, I knew exactly what he was trying to do. I knew exactly what he was thinking. He definitely gambled on that one, but the gamble worked, and he's in a better spot right now. He has fresher tires. He's sitting in a good spot, no damage, and he's right there in the mix. The only issue is he's right there in the mix. So we'll see, being right at the storm, what happens next, because these wrecks, they're not going to stop, right? People are still going to be aggressive. Wrecks will still happen the rest of this race. You got to be smart. You got to be vigilant. You got to be ready. You got to be aggressive at the same time, but you got to be patient and smart. At the end of the day, in order to finish first, you must first finish.
And we're going to take the next step as the pace car is off and in. Green flag in the air. 54 laps still to go. Michael Guest, control car on the inside. Going to jump very quickly to the outside of the racetrack. And that's going to leave Logan Clampett with not much drafting help. It's a 4-car breakaway on the outside. Clampett sees that. He'll also jump up to the outside line.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we saw Bobby Zelensky do at the start of this race here. And we heard Bobby talk about that, how that outside line tends to have a little bit more momentum, a little bit more speed around it, even though it is the longer distance from point A to point B. The way to counter that here is exactly what the 35 and the 12 are doing here. That's Sturgill and Maines right now is just link up, hook up together, and try to be able to fight that back 2 by 2.
And the inside now starting to get more coordinated. Going to fight back on the inside of the racetrack, led by that 35 of Michael Sturgill to get all the way to second. Malik Ray wants more, though. He'll go outside to a third lane. It's going to put Matthew Baker down the center. It's going to be short-lived, but I'm not shocked at all. Malik Ray wants to be the aggressive one. That fits his MO. He is one of the most aggressive drivers on the service. Maybe the opposite of the Matt Busa mentality. Malik Ray wants to go, and he wants to go now.
Oh my goodness, they were getting rowdy right there. I'm surprised they got through that whole triable turn 1-2 safely. I don't know how they did it, but everybody kept control of their car. Everybody kept a cool head. These drivers are now looking like they're moving up to the top lane because the top lane is looking like it's working a little bit better. Sometimes you can get that good momentum coming off the top lane because you're kind of in a way sitting on top of a hill. Once you leave the corner and you're going back to the front stretch or to the back stretch, you actually come downhill, and you can kind of see it right there. With all that banking, you got to come back downhill because the whole track isn't banked 31 degrees all the way around. It's only banked like that in the corner. So eventually it has to come back down to ground level, and you get a little bit of a run sometimes when you're running that top lane, especially when you got a lot of help. Now, if you're by yourself and somebody else is on the bottom, obviously the shortest way around the track is the quickest, but with that momentum and also the draft, you find yourself gaining some more speed running that top with the group. And it looks like a lot of people are just moving around right now, trying to find what's going to work best. Both lanes are moving. Both lanes look to be working. It's tough. Where do you go?
Well, I'll tell you where you don't want to be, and that is where Bobby Zelensky found himself in that middle lane here at this point, Jesse, as he has now dropped all the way down into 18th position after virtually starting on the pole, thanks to Busa coming down and starting from pit lane. So that is a huge change. We may see that third lane start to develop, that middle lane start to develop a little later on in the race, but it's clearly not going right now. Now, I love seeing what's going on right here. This is something that we've seen before. Drivers on the top lane will lean into that bottom lane a little bit. Try to take a little bit of the side draft away from those drivers, looking at Michael Guest there down on the low line. Try to take a little bit of speed off them and frankly stop their momentum a little bit and prevent any speed from that low lane. It's a very aggressive maneuver, one that I'm a little surprised we're seeing this early on, but with as frenetic as this race has been, anything is possible.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think they've set the tone, Jesse, this early. I don't think anybody wants to ride around, be conservative, take their time. It seems like everybody wants to go, and it is a shorter race. There's only one pit stop that stands between us and the end of the race here, so I do get some of that rush. These drivers couldn't really, intentionally start at the back because they had to be in the top 40 in qualifying to make the race. So everybody had to push. If you started 30th, you might not want to be 30th when we get to that cycle of green flag pit service or yellow flag service whenever it comes. So I understand some of that angst from drivers in the midfield. I do find it a bit surprising that the drivers inside of the top 10 are that aggressive because you'd think they would want to play a little bit of a defensive game and protect what they already have.
You would think so, but these drivers, I mean, they're all fighting like it's the last lap, but they're doing it really clean, which is really, really cool to watch. I mean, everybody likes watching aggressive driving as long as it's clean, aggressive driving, and they're making all the right moves. People are trying to control the race. I think that's what's going on right now in their mind. They're thinking, hey, if I can control the pace, I can control my destiny. So people are wanting to make their way up forward, make their way up front, control the pace, control what's going on, control the lanes that are occurring, and keep it really in their favor. If 3 lanes start forming, it's not really in the best interest for anybody. So the folks are trying to move up forward to really kind of control the story and the narrative, and they're doing a pretty good job, but there's a lot of movement going on, and it's really exciting to see. It's very suspenseful. I'm over here thinking, oh my goodness, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? But it's good. There's a little bit of bumping and grinding right there in the center. A few people getting left out to dry. We'll see if they make some friends real quick. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, it certainly is there, Jesse. Is now we've got, that's the 7 of it. Keeping my eyes there on Jason Maines. He's been poking his nose to the inside a little bit. We're going to jump on board with Alex Thurber here. He's riding a little bit farther back down in the field on that low lane, and I've got to commend the low lane here at this point. They have been pretty neat and orderly. We've seen a lot of movement, a lot of sort of jostling back and forth out of that high lane, and that really and truly is just going to blunt that momentum a little bit. As there you can see, just all spread out there up on the top. That's not going to help you get more speed up on the high lane. You've got to all be working together from 5th all the way back down to 20th.
It really is a group effort, and you also need to rely on the drivers around you for your own success. It is a big ask to rely on somebody who you may have never raced with before, or may have only raced with on the occasional ERA event here and there, to push you successfully, to be able to draft successfully if you're pushing them. It is a lot. The field's going to pinch 3 wide as we head off into the corner. There's a lapped car on the bottom that's going to cause a little bit of an accordion effect through, but looks like most of the race leaders able to tiptoe through without incident. Daytona is wide enough for 3 cars, but I don't necessarily recommend it on a long-term basis. These cars, just by the natural push and the forces of all the air in the draft, like to swing side to side like you just saw there with the 49 as Spencer Burns second in line on the outside of the racetrack. And that's why every time you see that little bit of 3 wide, I hold my breath, but they made it through, and your lead pack is 2 wide. You're looking at a lead pack 32 cars strong, separated by less than 3 seconds.
They are battling. Oh my goodness. This is some aggressive racing, but it is so clean and so interesting to watch, which shows me the skill of these drivers. Not too many people can do what these folks are doing. I mean, when you have 40 cars out there running this clean, this close, moving around that much, they're not just staying all just, in one lane and that's it. I mean, they're really moving around. I mean, you see people, 5 rows back, 10 rows back, still moving from, one lane to another, going into the middle, going to outside, inside, you name it. I mean, you got Hughes over here with the shades. Absolutely love it. That's awesome. It's always cool to kind of see these onboard cams, to see drivers in their homes, in their rooms, racing here in our Omega Cup, and seeing what their apparel that they're going to be rocking for the race is. But it's always good to see it. But these drivers are moving around a lot, really kind of trying to figure out what's going to work best for them, what's going to work for them at that moment. Sometimes what's going to work best for you in the long run isn't what's really going to work best in the short run. So you got to make the move that's right for that moment, for that instant, because anything can happen in this race.
Yeah, exactly. Anything can happen here, and now we're starting to see more drivers work their way into the lane that they're getting comfortable with. I think you're starting to see a little bit of that teammate cooperation. Obviously, no teams here in this race, but you start to learn who you want to dance with here at this point. You learn who's going to be a good pusher, who's going to be a little bit more aggressive, and you may not want to be around them. I think that's one of the reasons we may have seen Zelensky fall back from that first place position, is that he didn't necessarily want to be dancing with all those drivers up front. He just wants to get to the end of the race. We're seeing a lot of aggression out of the lead pack here, and that's going to be something that I think you could do. As Bobby there just scratching his chin a little bit coming down the back straightaway. He looks very comfortable, as that was a very aggressive move coming down. I think that was the 49 of Spencer Burns coming down into the low line.
Wonder if he's pondering what the guys in front of him are thinking as we see a car dip out of line down to the inside. That was the 45 of Michael Guest, and it's going to really shake up the momentum for the bottom. Bobby's going to go to the middle 3 wide. Maybe he was just planning his next move, and Brian LaPrade going to give him a push. So 2 cars trying to make the middle work. You go on board with LaPrade, but man, was there a lot of movement there. And now that Zelensky's clear, does he leave LaPrade? No, it's the opposite. LaPrade going to go to the outside, but he will cut a break. He'll allow Zelensky in line. And again, we continue to see flashes and moments of 3 wide, but nobody's been able to sustain that yet. It does gain Zelensky and LaPrade a few positions, but I think it's just a matter of time until a 3rd lane completely forms up. We just haven't seen it yet.
If this gets any more exciting, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. This is absolutely crazy. We see Anthony Alfredo, real-life racer, Xfinity Series, has run Cup as well, run trucks, has run every single series you can think about in NASCAR. He's even here racing, and it's so cool to see real-life racers, people who are racing on TV every single week and coming and racing in the eRacing Association Omega Cup events, fighting here, battling, competing against all the other drivers. This is getting crazy. They're like 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide. I don't even know what's about to happen when they go into turn 3 right here. It's getting nuts. We'll see.
Yeah, and you saw there, Jeff Merck decide to jump down onto the low line from about 3rd or 4th place position, clearly opting to maybe get out a little bit of the carnage there that was going up on the high line as they're going to bring their way around here. We're already a third of the way into this race. That is just the amount of speed that these drivers are carrying around here, working on lap number 20. And sometimes it's hard to forget or hard to remember when we look at this circuit, these drivers are going 190, 200 miles an hour around here, and your reaction times have to be so fast in that kind of thing. If you get a little bit of a bad bump, you have got to be able to quickly respond to it and snap back to it. It really, really is impressive.
I think those shots, when you look straight down the backstretch and you see all of that movement and all of the wiggling, it really shows you just how out of control these race cars are. And discipline's a big thing, not only in the aggression, but in the bump draft, right? The bump draft is a critical element of plate racing here in Daytona, as now the 28 of Zelensky again going to go to the middle lane and try to make it work. He's got LaPrade, and now he's got Anthony Alfredo. So 3 cars going to group up. But notice, this is where you want to push. Down the short chute, but you should give a little bit of space in the corner. Let the car settle into the banking, let it figure out what it wants to do, and then line back up so the second you come down the hill right there, you're pushing again, but that's too much. Bitter. It's Jeff Merck in front of the field. Caution flag number 2, and the 41 gets sideswiped some more. LaPrade spins as well.
Wow. Wow. Oh, you can see that face right there from Jeff. He's just like, wow, what just happened? These folks, they were racing. They were racing hard, and they were racing pretty clean, but we knew that it was going to happen. We knew that they could not do that forever. Eventually, something had to give, and that's where it is. A little push, got him a little sideways. Once it did, next thing you know, he was in the wall, and that's a big one.
Yeah, and it looks like there that Merck's not going to have too terribly much damage. He's probably going to want to come down into pit lane, get that spare car. We're going to take a look on board a little bit farther back here. This is Nick Robinson. Watch some of this as he just tries to get out of the way. You can see all of those cars scattering in front of him, and he's going to get tapped from behind. And that's one of the big problems here at Daytona. Like I talked about, you're carrying so much speed, and yes, these next-gen cars have bigger brakes. They've got better stopping power, but you don't want to slam on the brakes when you see an incident like this take place in front of you. You frankly want to try to figure out the right amount of throttle to get yourself on through it. And there you see Robinson just getting tagged. I think he's going to be able to keep it pointed the right way, but still a rough break for him.
These drivers will have an opportunity to get those cars repaired. And fortunately, if they do have a little bit of minor damage, the draft being the great equalizer means that unless you really tore it up, you're going to have a chance to fight back in this race. We talked about this being a one-stopper, though. There are 38 laps to go in this race. We are inside the fuel window to make it our scheduled distance. So no shock here. It is going to be wholesale service as everybody comes down pit road. Might not be as flashy as green flag pit stops, but when everybody's bumper to bumper like this, Jesse, any mistake going to be amplified by that much more. You got to be perfect here.
Exactly. You got to be perfect. I mean, every single millisecond counts right here, because it's not just the race on the pit road, it's that race off the pit road. Who's going to get their tires? Who's going to get their fuel quicker than everybody else? Who's going to be able to get off? Who got in quick? Who got out slow? I mean, so much is on the line, and we see our first off pit road.
Yeah, it looks like there that it's going to be Michael Thorpe Jr., Nick Jerkovich, and Spencer Burns. I noticed the 46 machine having a little bit of problem going down pit lane. They missed the box. I think the 22 as well, also missing their stall. And to your point, Jesse, that's one of the things you've got to avoid. If you miss those marks, you have got to back up, back down into pit lane, and that is going to cost you precious tenths of a second, if not a full second.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it sucks. It's the worst feeling in the world when you miss your pit box. It happens. It happens to real life drivers, even the best. I mean, folks who have won championships, they miss their pit box. It happens. You're coming in, you're looking at so much. You're trying to keep your pit road speed. You're also trying to, keep enough speed to get into the box so you're not slowing down too early. You're trying to avoid other drivers coming in, coming out. All these different things are going on, and you're just in the heat of the moment, and it can happen. You just miss your box. I mean, even when I raced this past weekend in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Daytona, I didn't miss my box, but someone else went a little bit too far into their box and ended up actually hitting one of their pit crew members and hit them into me as I'm driving in, and I hit their tire and their tire rolls off, and it was all bad. So it can happen. It can happen even to the best. It can happen in real life. It can happen in the virtual world. It's just a thing. Getting in and off a pit road is not an easy task at all.
And you see Jerkovich and Thorpe, their names tumble down the scoring pylon because they did indeed miss their pit stall. So that's that big mistake that I said you really can't afford. That's going to take them all the way to the rear of the field. And I think that kind of situational awareness could also apply to when you're on track, right, Jesse? I mean, everybody knows, you referenced the big one earlier, everybody knows it's coming at some point. I always feel nervous on the sim on the outside because it gives me less escape options, right? There's cars to my left, there's a wall to my outside. What we saw a lot of drivers do when that incident happened was they went way down there running the road course and the bus stop on the chicane because they have that way to get out. As a driver, do you think about that, or can you not afford to think about it because then it'll take you away from putting your best foot forward?
So for me, I do think about it in the early part after a restart, right? So when I'm looking at restarts, typically at a track like this, I usually try to pick the bottom lane, depending on how the race has been playing. And if I'm noticing that there's a lot of wrecks, I'm definitely going with the bottom lane because I need that escape route. When you're sitting on top, you are a sitting duck. You don't have anywhere to go. You're just kind of done for. Now, when we go to other tracks, like let's say, for example, you go to a intermediate track and so on, a lot of times I'll want to pick the top lane. It just rolls a little bit better on a restart. For me, I'm more comfortable doing that. But on these super speedways, the bottom lane for me for sure, because I need that escape route, because anything can happen in those first couple laps. And by having that escape route, you can go as way bottom as you want, all the way down to the inside barrier right there. You have plenty of room. You can avoid wrecks, get away from them. I know I've avoided a lot of them on super speedways over the ones I've run, whether it's Talladega, Daytona, you name it. It's just super helpful to have that escape route when you can.
And we'll see how they fare this time through. Green flag back in the air and a switch up front. Burns goes from the bottom to the outside, and at the same time, Malik Ray goes from the outside to the bottom. So it's a flipperoo. Burns leads the top, Ray leads the bottom. Both lanes pretty evenly side by side off of turn 2.
Yeah, and they're going to keep themselves together here. 2 good pushes up at the front of the field as they run right now. Everybody, I think, at this point, just trying to keep themselves in line. Don't want to be too aggressive here at this point. We've got a little bit of movement farther back in the field, but the big help for here, for some of these drivers that did lose the back of the pack, because there were about 10 drivers that did so, they're going to be able to gain themselves back in and maybe have a shot to be able to get themselves back up front.
See some slow cars dropping off of the lead pack, maybe a little bit of damage on those cars who are going to lose touch with the lead pack. You really cannot afford that in a race like this. It's always risky to be the last couple of cars in this main draft because it's so easy to lose it. And talk about a hookup, the 50 and the 45 latch bumpers in the corner and rocket out in front. Sturgill going to join them. And Spencer Burns went for the race lead to 4th in the blink of an eye. Now here comes the counterattack. Garrett Maines down to the inside of the racetrack. A whole lot of eNASCAR talent mixing it up in the top 5.
Yeah, very much so, as we're seeing a lot. Ooh, big wiggle there out of Garrett Maines. I think he got a little bit of a rough push there from Matthew Baker behind him. But that low lane, again, just still lacking a little bit of momentum early on in the run. I think it takes a lot more effort, a lot more of a conceited approach to be able to get yourself to get that low lane to work. The high lane just naturally carries more momentum around here, and that's why you saw Gaston Ray immediately jump up into that high lane.
And as the 12 gets that push, the 50, Malik Ray thought about going down to block. You'll see that a lot from a lead driver. They'll try to work both lanes. The inside's got to run. I'll go down to the inside. The outside comes back. I'll jump back up to the outside. Malik Ray was certainly considering that. I think the speed difference was just too great, and he has to stay up top. So you've got Malik Ray and Garrett Maines side by side on the front row. It's interesting. All of the drivers right now in the top 8 started this race at about the top 15 15 or so, we haven't seen any big movers. You got to go back to Darrell Young in 9th, up 12 spots. Jonathan Cofield in 12th, up 20 spots. To find big movers, maybe there's something to be said, Jesse, about the fact that your leaders have been so aggressive and constantly fighting that nobody's really been able to infiltrate them. It's been the same handful of drivers up front for much of this race. We've seen laps led by Zelensky, Ray, Burns, Maines, and Guest.
Very true. A lot of the same names up there, but those names continue to flip-flop. I mean, I see Maines going all the way up top and then all the way back down to, 8th, 6th, 7th, but I see 2 Maines up there, father and son, if I'm not mistaken, both of them racing. And it's really, really cool to kind of see families joining into this, competing with each other. I mean, this is an opportunity to compete with your family, your friends, to jump on the server, to jump into these tournaments, go for the big cash prizes, race against people have fun doing it, enjoy yourself, no hard feelings at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's really just a game, but not really just a game, it's a sim. And folks, they do take it serious, but it's all for fun. They're here just to have a good time, get some great experience, get some great shine, and it's really cool to just see this father-son combo here. I always love seeing them when they jump into these eRacing events.
Yeah, it's always fantastic to see just the different combinations of drivers that you are able to get in there. But right now, as we take a look a little bit more, low lane, doing what I talked about a little bit earlier, the high lane trying to get that side draft a little bit, and it came in on down, trying to be able to take a little bit of that away. We're seeing more of that aggression here out of that top line.
And the outside, I think, in the last couple of years has been the better place to be on the sim. Once upon a time, it'd be a race to the bottom. You'd want to ride around on the bottom and just really plant it there and stay there, but no longer. If the speed's up top and that's where the momentum is, you might as well lock it in up there. And with Jesse, we've talked a bit about, of course, that $5,000 prize on the line tonight, but there is so much more to the eRacing Association than just tonight's Omega Cup Spring Bowl. You've got the major events every quarter, but also tell people more about the membership they can find at eragaming.gg.
Yeah, so for folks, whether they're racing in this event or they're at home just watching this, they can head to eragaming.gg so that they can sign up for some of our upcoming events. We put on events on different platforms. We're not just on iRacing, and we've done stuff on Gran Turismo, Mario Kart. We're looking to add actually another platform, and it's a surprise, can't announce it just yet, but we're looking to add another one. Oh, but we have a crazy wreck going on right now, big one. A lot of cars involved. Anthony Alfredo in the 33 getting bounced around, a lot of different cars. We'll see how this affects people's races, especially when we're just past the halfway point.
And it again centered, no surprise, DJ, around a little bit of 3 wide gone wrong. They really started to pinching each other down in the corner, and then Logan and Clampett was involved in that one, as well as the 33, as Jesse mentioned, of Anthony Alfredo. There's some big names that got collected in that one.
Yeah, some big names, and again, the domino effect really coming into play for these drivers. You saw a bunch of them scattering off down to the inside as Anthony tried to lock that car down, and he unfortunately just was a wrecking ball through there through no fault of his own, it should be said. Let's take a look here. Yeah, 3 wide, a little bit of a bad bump from that blue car up ahead, and that looks like what really caused all of that to fire off.
Again, they go from riding to wrecking, Jesse, in the blink of an eye. It can happen that quick every single time. And watch as this happens up the road coming off of turn number 4. You can see the Logitech entry there of Clampett. You got Anthony Alfredo in the mix as well. Again, when there's cars wrecking in front of you, there's just nothing you can do. And even with all that asphalt down there for these drivers to try to avoid it, still a lot of drivers get collected, and Alfredo took quite a shot late, which I'm sure is going to damage his car a bit.
Oh, yeah, it must have been pretty painful taking that shot, especially at the end. I mean, he was just a little wrecking ball in the middle. He didn't have anywhere to go. Nothing he could do except just get banged around. And hopefully he has some fast repair still so he can go in and use that fast repair. That's the cool thing about these events is just because you get caught up in a wreck doesn't mean your day is absolutely over. You can still come in and use your fast repair. Now, obviously, you're not going to get unlimited fast repairs, but you come in, you use your fast repair, and hope that you don't get caught up in a big one again, and be able to basically have an opportunity to come out for a fresh start. And when you're at a track like this, Super Speedway, Daytona, it's a really, really big track. So when you come in for a pit stop, you don't really got to be afraid of losing a lap, going down a lap or two. You know what I mean? When we go to the short tracks, that is a possibility. But here at a place like Daytona, you should be all right.
Just listening into some of the strategy as well being talked by drivers. Of course, you don't want to have to burn your quick repair, but if you're damaged enough, DJ, these drivers can do it. This is a point we always talk about as well on these ERA broadcasts, is that if you have a little bit of damage, maybe you don't burn the quick repair right away, right? You actually come down in events where that quick repair is not an option. Drivers will actually have to sit there. iRacing will calculate a damage repair time based on what's wrong with the vehicle. So if you've only got minor damage and iRacing says, I need 2 minutes to fix this, you might actually go down, use that 2 minutes, keep that quick repair in your back pocket, because it is Daytona. Not all wrecks are the same. You might be in a bigger wreck later. So there is a mix of drivers coming down and taking that quick repair. They now have a brand new race car. Just like it rolled off the trailer, they're back to being 110% competitive. There may be also some other drivers who don't want to burn that quick repair yet. They're going to come down and actually get that damage fixed on the stopwatch and maybe not have a car that's at 110%, but can still compete, saving that quick repair for the back pocket. Because what you would hate to happen is to burn it, say 20 laps into the race, and then immediately be caught up in another accident, because then you don't have any left, and if the race car gets really torn up there, of course your chances of winning this race go down. So that's a nice little bit of gamesmanship that you see in races like this. Is it worth it to use it now or save it for later as the lights go out on the pace car?
Exactly, and that's some of the strategy that these drivers are going to be thinking about. And as you said earlier here, Evan, the draft is the great equalizer. So unless you're dealing with massive amounts of damage that's going to seriously affect the aerodynamic properties of the car, you're not going to have that much of a problem, and you're going to be able to get away with having a little bit of damage or getting that damage repaired, as you said. It's for drivers like Anthony Alfredo that we saw that got an absolute shellacking there, that you're going to need to come in and get that full spare car to be able to use it. But unless you have to, don't use it until the end, because I guarantee you, as we get closer and closer to that checkered flag, we're going to see more aggression out of these drivers. They know what is on the line. They all want that $4 grand. And so we're going to see some more aggressive moves, and more aggressive moves are going to mean a bigger chance for an incident. And so if that happens, you got to watch out for it.
Lights out on top of the pace car, still 26 laps to go in this race when we come by the start-finish line. In that point that I had mentioned about no big movers is really been shaken up with the last couple of accidents. Matthew Baker leading this race, started in 11th. Daryl Young sitting in 3rd, started back in 21st. And how about Raul Alves and Austin Edwards? Both started outside of the top 10. They ride in 8th and 9th at the moment. Pace car off, green flag in the air. Less than halfway to go at Daytona.
Side by side, and a little bit of movement happening already before they even got to turn one. They're already 3 wide up front. They're not messing around. They're not playing any games. Aggressiveness will continue. We'll see if they get clear, but they're going 3 wide again. 2 rows, 3 wide. There's 6 competing all for that spot. What's going to happen? They stay clean. They manage to continue to push, not moving around. At the end of the day, if you're going to push, you got to stay straight. You can't move around if you're going to push, if you don't want something big to happen.
Oh, and there goes the flag car. Baker across the field. Caution comes quickly as they were able to hang on. No, there is a spinner all the way in the rear, and this time it strikes at the very front.
Yep. It looked good for a while, and then they continue to get aggressive. It's that side drive. They're trying to come down, take some air off, slow people down, stall them a little bit. A lot of things happening, and yeah, that little push, it was just a little bit too much. Pushing in the corners doesn't work. Just don't try it. It causes wrecks.
Yeah, it certainly does. And there you can see the 5 machine, really the one that started all of that out, Matthew Baker. As we take a look a little farther back down in the field, this is some of the add-on effect here. Spencer Burns, he sees that smoke up in front of him, lifts out of the throttle, and there you can see the big stack up in front. Burns does the right thing, slows the car down up to the right amount, brings it down to the low side to be able to get out of the way of everything. And he's a lucky driver there to avoid that. Thankfully, though, I don't think these cars are up to full momentum, and that didn't look like a hard enough of a lick where we're going to have to be dealing with some pretty big damage.
So the drivers involved going to pick up the pieces while we take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, closing in on 20 laps to go, you're watching the ERA Omega Cup Spring Bowl on Podium.
Do you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out, someone just to give the Gap sauce? Well, you should check out the Gapum app. Gapum is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events. And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gapum Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gapum app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack. Gapum is a one-stop shop for the car world. Looks like I just got a match on the Gapum app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans. Ready, set, Gapple.
Back live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway as Podium's coverage of the ERA Omega Cup Spring Bowl continues as we inch closer and closer to the home stretch. We're happy that you're joining us on this Wednesday evening alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Jesse Awuji and DJ Clark at the booth. Our producer downstairs is Ryan Bauer. And Jesse, I'll jump back to you first on this one. We have seen a couple of, I would say, medium-sized accidents, right? We haven't had a big one, but we've had a fair share of accidents at the front, in the middle, and at the back. So these drivers, I think, are starting to figure out what works, what doesn't work. Now, that is not going to mean that they're going to start to take it easy, because you see that 23 to go number, that is going to start to tick down quick. So I think the intensity is only going to continue to ramp up, and we'll see how many drivers are left. I said at the start that we'd get 40 pretty looking race cars. Right now, the number of cars on the lead lap stands at 37. It's a lot of drivers still in contention.
Everybody's still in contention. I mean, you could still win the race right now. I mean, folks who are in 37th, 36th, 30th, they still have the same opportunity as everybody else who's in 1st through 5th, 1st through 10th, you name it. I mean, everybody who's on the track right now on the lead lap still has a real opportunity to win this race. But now that we're down to basically the final third of the race, and we saw how aggressive it was in the first third and in the middle third, but going into this final third, people are going to be making moves because the time is now. You have to start making your way up forward. You have to put yourself in a position where you can control the pace, control the race a little bit, and then at the end of the day, you just got to be there at the end. So we're going to see who's going to make their way up forward to be there at the end. Mistakes will happen. Cars might spin, but who knows what's going to happen really at the end? Who knows who's going to win? Who knows? It's a wild one. It's anybody's race.
It is always so unpredictable on the super speedways, and the green flag is back in the air for Jason Maines. First time the 7 car going to be up front under green flag conditions. At the 31 car, we talked with them earlier tonight, Raul Alves. He's made his way up to second in the 31.
He certainly has here at this point. Raul doing a good job, although the one thing they're going to have to worry about here is both Raul and Baker up at the front here. They both have 8 incidents here at this point. Now, they will get a black flag, a drive-through penalty here at 12 incidents, and they will get disqualified at 16. So you've got to be a little bit careful about that. That's something that we didn't mention at the offset, and they're going to have to watch out for it. But ooh, look at that momentum from the low line.
And look at the drop for the 25. Daryl Young going the wrong way quick, and he's going to fall outside of the top 10 just like that. The 5 of Matthew Baker tried to do something in the middle. He'll also drop down. You jump on board with Michael Thorpe Jr., second in line on the inside. He is pushing Bobby Zelensky to the race lead. Little bit aggressive there. You can see the 18. A wiggle here, a wiggle there. But Zelensky back out in front, looking for his second ERA win and first on an oval.
You could see that bright smiling face by Michael Thorpe. He was so happy to get pushed all the way up here. Now he's sitting there in second, trying to find his way up forward. Is he going to lead any laps? Is he going to be there and hold it? We'll find out. It is getting pretty wild. We see some 3 wide, a few rows back. Let's see if they can maintain a clean line through there. They're getting tight, a little bit more pushing up front. Pushing through the corner. We'll see what happens. Man, this is exhilarating.
It certainly is, and there we're starting to see a little bit of a spread out up at the front of the field. Now, this may look like they're going to break away, but rest assured, here comes that high lane, and we've got a crash.
He gets hooked.
Too much, and around goes the 12. They're not done. More cars gonna pile into it, and it took till lap 41, but there is the big one.
Wow, that's the big one. All the other wrecks were wrecks. That was a big one.
Appetizers, main course.
Yeah. Yes. We saw, when we saw that major push right there, we knew that wasn't going to last. And there you go. Everybody, one by one, boom, boom, boom. Everybody's spinning. Everybody's wrecking. Everybody's getting taken out. I don't think anybody was safe that time. Maybe one car. Nope.
For reference, Garrett Maines, the 12 who's being pushed 199 miles an hour right there. The car in front of him, Michael Thorpe, 186. So that run was a 13 mile an hour difference. You just can't get away with something like that in that closing rate.
No, you really and truly can't. Absolutely incredible. And we just mentioned all of those incident point limits. Well, as a result of that, we have got I would argue, majority of the field here that has hit their 12 incident limit point, and they're going to have to come down into pit lane to get that black flag served, adding a little bit of insult to injury.
That will be interesting with all the folks who have to come through and serve that penalty. I'm sure they're not happy about that at all. But the reason why we have the incident point limit like that is just so people don't drive over their head, right? As much as it might be annoying for some of the drivers, they're probably sitting there like, oh my gosh, why do they have that? You know, it's Daytona, we get rough. Yeah, we get rough, but we also want to promote clean racing. And if we had like a 30-point limit or whatever the max would be on iRacing, if we had something super high, people would start basically driving way over their heads with no repercussions at all. And we want to make it to where people are smart, right? You know, we want to make sure that you're running hard, you're racing clean at the same time, that you're not out there just wrecking people to wreck them because you can do it. We don't want that. At the end of the day, it is a virtual world. Yeah, you know, you're not going to get hurt if you get caught up in a wreck, you hit the reset button, you name it. But there has to be some type of accountability for your actions on track. Really, one of the only ways we can do that is by having the incident point limit at where it's at.
And I think it adds even more of an incentive. We talk about the varying strategies that you see in a plate race like this. Some drivers are going to want to be up front and be aggressive. Others are going to want to hang out at the back. That much more incentive for, listen, if I hang out towards the rear and I keep this clean, I've got that much better of a chance to stick around, not be penalized. And then as everybody else starts to race over their heads and makes mistakes and get involved in accidents, I'm going to start to pick up the pieces and listen, I'm going to find myself in a good spot pretty late here. I mean, we haven't talked a lot about the likes of Devin George and Nick Jerkovic and, you know, Luis Vega. Those are all cars who were in the 20s and 30s for most of this race. They're now in the top 15. So it does pay to be smart, to keep all 4 tires underneath you, and to stick around at the end. I always say it doesn't matter if it's a 20-lap race or a 200-lap race. It doesn't really get real until the last 10 or 5. Everything else is R&D. What works? What doesn't work? Who do I like drafted with? Who doesn't like drafting with me? It's all R&D. None of it matters until you get into the home stretch, and we're starting to get down to crunch time. That time by 17 laps to go, and the lights are out on top of the pace car. We'll be going back green next time.
Yeah, going back to green here with 16 laps to go, and I agree with you here, Evan. This is where we're going to get down into crunch time. We're going to have to see what these drivers are able to do. Watch for a little bit more of, I think, aggression, if we can even count on any more aggression. I don't know what that's going to look like here, because we've seen a pretty aggressive field across the board here at this point, but I think we're going to see some drivers starting to move a little bit more. We're going to see those blocks that we talked about starting to chuck them down to the inside. That third lane may start to develop a little bit more. We are going to see drivers doing more experimentation here at this point, now that they know what their cars can do and now that they know who they're going to be able to hook up with around them.
And the number of cars on the lead lap starts to trickle down little bit by little bit as drivers fall out of this race. We've seen Rod Morris Jr. go to the garage, same with Julian Ritchie. Patrick McQuaid, Roger Buff Sr., both a couple of laps down. And again, you would think after an accident, drivers would say, hey, maybe let's take it easy. Let's not do that again. It's the opposite, because each yellow takes 4 laps of passing opportunities out of this race. So it's actually going to make these drivers more aggressive and more desperate, because that 17 to go clock could be highly effective. If a caution flag takes 4 laps out of it, you really are starting to run out of time to make your race-winning move. It is the 2022 Summer Bowl race winner on the front row and in control. Zelensky takes the green.
Push, push, push. We're seeing it up front. They're staying in line. Let's see if they get off each other going through the corner so that they don't cause anybody to wiggle. We'll see. Nice control there.
Yeah, good control from all drivers as they now head onto the back straightaway here. Looking like we've got some pretty orderly lines, at least up at the front of the field, about the top 8 running in parallel with one another. That is a little bit better. Oh, moving to the outside there. That's a bit surprising to see. I'm not sure if that was a bad push or just opting to get out of it there. But the 71 just saying, Nick Robinson saying, I've had enough of that.
Yeah, that was, I don't know if that was by choice. I think that one was forced. I think he made the right move on wanting to make sure he wasn't going to wreck. So he just allowed himself to just go with the momentum that was pushing him outside instead of fighting against it and ending up getting turned and basically causing another big one.
Lap car going to park the bus on the bottom. That is number 19 to Machine getting absorbed into the lead pack, which is going to force your race leaders to go high. You can see that somewhat dangerous speed difference, but 19 going to hold a valid racing line. Everybody else going to have to go high and above, and this is the most spread out, even though they're really not that far apart, that we've seen, though, this lead pack so far on a restart tonight. Every other time they were side by side, 7, 8, 9 rows deep. They're all still there. They're all still in a draft, but there is no side-by-side inside of the top 7. Everybody up top, one lone car, only one right now on the bottom. Who wants to be the instigator? Burns going to go to the inside. The 32 of Jerkovic follows, but can they do it with only 2? They need help.
Well, they've got 2 more cars coming up behind them there, and that should be able to help them out a little bit, but it's going to take a hot second for those 2 cars to be able to tuck up behind in the draft and pull themselves up along. Right now, the high lane is the way to be. Watch, though, for anybody up on this high lane, once these 4 cars, 5 cars now hook up with one another, they're going to have enough momentum to make some things work. Watch for a couple of these leaders, looking at maybe Malik Ray, Michael Guest, Anthony Alfredo, for them to jump down to the low side here in front of Spencer Burns.
A good onboard look with Spencer Burns locked in, focused as he leads the inside line. But you can see it's about a 5-car length deficit to the outside. So the 32 machine of Nick Jerkovic behind gonna need a push. They have that help though. Parsons has joined. Zaniga's there. The 25 car tucking in line as well. So the numbers are starting to form up on the bottom, and you can see from his perspective, Burns inching closer and closer to the front, but it is still the top side. How long though will their dominance last? The 49 now really making some progress.
13 to go. 13 to go. Decisions have to be made right now. Do you go up front right now? Do you wait it out a few more laps? Do you see how it's all going to play out? Do you find friends? Do you make enemies? What do you do? Do you leave people out to dry? It's all these questions are going on in these drivers' minds as they're trying to control their vehicles while getting pushed, while they're trying to make moves, crazy moves, swinging from the bottom to the top, top to the bottom. So many things happening, so much to think about. Things are getting real. We're getting close to the final 10 laps.
We are indeed, and you saw a good move there from Malik Ray hooking up with Michael Guest to be able to make that high lane work. Zelensky's going to jump down low, and now it's going to be Guest that dives down to the low side to try to make that all play out. This is a little bit of that slicing and dicing that I talked about with 11 laps to go. Now Guest comes back up to the high lane. This is some of that blocking. This is what we're going to see over the next 11 laps, especially out of these front drivers.
And now it's an even fight inside and outside with 11 laps to go. You got about 20 drivers in contention to take that $4,000 top prize if they can win it. Some drivers back in traffic looking to go 3 wide. The side-by-side, though, stands strong for now. Michael Guest has led 12 laps tonight. That's more than anybody else, and he leads off at turn 4.
The pushing continues. These lanes, they're moving. They're moving. The bottom lane's really trying to make something work, but is it going to work? That top lane still has the momentum. Every time I'm watching them on that top, it looks like they're starting to lose a little bit of ground, but all of a sudden they just gain some momentum coming out of the corner. But that bottom lane is getting just a little bit stronger now. They just need to work together a little bit better. Too many people are out for themselves. Got to work together. At the end of the day, you're not going to win the race right now. You're going to win the race in the final lap. So work together. Teamwork. Bring that bottom lane up. Get even there.
Exactly. This is still where, Evan, you talked about a little bit earlier, the R&D here. Who's going to be your good pusher? Who's going to be the driver that you want to hook up with? I think that's Anthony Alfredo there. No, excuse me, that's the 47 in the middle there. Matt Busa trying to make that third lane work. Looks like the 77 of Alex Thurber is going to jump there as well. This is getting a little bit hairy with 9 to go, trying to make this 3 wide going into turn 1. It looks like Thurber is going to get left out to dry. Some more movement in the back, but as you said earlier, Jesse, the high lane continues to work and continues to play. Evan, I think this is going to be looking good going down the backstretch.
Yeah, they tried that middle lane, but it didn't work. Even the 71 machine tried to jump in, offer some support, but there was no dice for Nick Robinson. So back to side by side. Now to the inside goes Michael Thorpe Jr. It is going to be a matter of time until they make that middle work, but the 34 again ends up on his own. No takers wanting to offer a lifeline, and they're going to pass him both inside and out. Bad gamble for Thorpe, who's going to go from the top 3 to outside of the top 15.
No, the 34. I'm rooting for him because that 34 looks so great. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased towards 34 because I run the 34 in real life, but he made a move and it didn't work out for him. But all is not lost. He still got 8 laps to go. I've seen people make up 10, 15 positions in just a few laps. So anything can still happen. It's going to still get dicey. Things are still going to happen. There still might be another wreck. There's still opportunity. So hang in there, Michael Thorpe.
Hang in indeed. And speaking of coming to the end, let's not forget here, we've got 3 green, white checker attempts, and if that yellow flag flies, the way it works on iRacing is the next flag will end it. And so if they get the white flag at any point in this run, that means that the checkered flag will be the next flag shown. As they come down into the line, a little bit of that side drafting there with Malik Ray, trying to take some momentum away from the lower line. Now here comes the 12 up to the inside. That's Garrett Maines, and he's got to get a little push here from Matthew Baker, trying to make that inside lane work.
More cars going to join them, the inside and the middle, both alive and thriving, but fighting for third, as it is still a slight edge to Guest and then the 50 car second in lineup on the outside of the racetrack. So Malik Ray in a very good spot to contend for the race win here. And again, the middle seems to be a means to an end. They go there, they gain some spots, but then they go back down to the middle. They just can't get enough cars coordinated together, and that's not surprising. We talked about this earlier. In a race without set teams, without alliances, it's difficult to get somebody to commit and stay with you for multiple laps at a time. It really is every driver for themselves, and there's only going to be 5 laps to go at Daytona the next time by, as Guest continues to lead on the outside.
They calmed down just a little bit. Why? I'm not sure. Maybe people are gathering their thoughts right now. Maybe people are strategizing, thinking, maybe trying to make some new friends, talking. And we all know these drivers have radios. They're talking through their mics, trying to coordinate a little bit. Who knows what's happening right now, but it seemed like it got a little bit calmer, but all calm before the storm hits. That storm is about to come. We have 5 laps to go.
Well, we've got 5 laps to go, and that's Jason Maines up on the high side there, one of the lap cars that they're going to have to get their way around. That's going to pinch the low line down, or the high line down a little bit more into the low lane, and that's going to take more speed away from that low line. Look at that, the 12 and the 5, Garrett Maines and Matthew Baker absolutely losing all kinds of momentum. That's going to give about 4 positions up to the high lane here. They're going to have to reform themselves a little bit. Starting to get a little bit squirrely there, farther back in the back. Contact!
Oh, the contact! Everybody had gotten through clean, and then somebody got a little bit impatient, and now we might have an overtime opportunity. I'm not fully sure.
This one may just push us into extra time. Let's see what happened on the outside of the racetrack. The 31 losing some speed, no help as they come off of turn 4, and then as they're 3 wide, what goes wrong? And the car in the middle pushes up just a little bit. I believe that was the 31 of Raul Alves, and certainly not intentional. What Raul is doing there, Jesse, is he was just trying to follow the cars in front of him, right? You need to follow the cars in front. So the 31 is trying to follow the 17 car, the orange and black. You'll see the orange and black car move up. He's just looking at the bumper of the car in front of him. Didn't realize, I think, that he was squeezing the 7 car so tight, hooks him around, and the 7 gets sent through the grass, and we have a late caution.
I blame it on the spotter. Some of the drivers out here have real-life spotters who are actually real-life spotting for them in the sim, and then some of them are using the iRacing provided spotter, which is also a great spotter as well. Not fully sure what spotter he was using, but I blame it on the spotter.
Yeah, indeed. You need that call telling you that there's a driver up on the outside to be able to let that know there, whether it was real life or whether it was the virtual spotter, one way or the other. A little bit of a failure there. We're going to see all drivers stay out here with only 3 laps to go. Not entirely surprising, although a lot of the back of the pack coming on in. I don't hate that strategy call here, Evan. If you're farther back down in the pack, why not come in, put a fresh set of boots on the car, and, well, see what that can help you.
Doesn't hurt, certainly. Make sure that you got fresh tires. We've seen handling to be a big point of contention. Cars have been sliding all over the place on this sunny Daytona afternoon. Track temp 130 degrees. That's 50 degrees more than the outside temp in the sim. So it is a hot, slick, abrasive racetrack. And I think that has played a factor as well into some of those handling conditions. And there's also the factor of, you know, most of these cars pitted 35 laps ago. A couple of drivers have pitted more recently. Spencer Burns in third, only pitted 21 ago. But if you're on that deeper end of pit stops, yes, we've had yellows to save fuel, but if you burn all 3 attempts at a green white checker, you could easily be talking about an extra 12 to 15 laps. It could put you in a little bit of a sketchy position for fuel. So an added element is drivers thinking, listen, if I'm already back here in 25th, there's no reason to risk running out of gas on a green white checker. Let me top it off. Let me get a little bit more. Let's get some fresh stickers on it and let's roll and see what can happen. The odds are against you if you're back there in traffic, but a lot can happen. And the big thing we're going to wait on now is that 2 laps to go is this race, I think, is going to officially push us into overtime. And we'll talk about those overtime procedures once we get a little bit closer. But I don't see the lights going out quite yet as we come to 2 laps to go in this race. The 45 tucked up behind the pace car will get a good answer, and the lights are out. We are going into overtime for our first of 3 attempts to finish this race.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there. The way this is going to work is that the green flag will be flown if drivers are able to get their way all the way back around and get the white flag. The next flag will end it. If we get a yellow on that first lap, we're going to reset, re-rack, and do it all over again. So it really sets up a fantastic run to the end here.
And on a green-white checker, those are those 2 big keys, Jesse. As DJ mentioned, first, they got to get to the white flag for this race to be official. If the yellow comes before it, we'll try it again. And then unlike in real life, if there's a wreck on the white flag lap, there is no need to put a yellow out for a safety reason here on the sim. So once you get to the white, it's a cage match. It's next car back no matter what.
Yeah, it's definitely a cage match, that's for sure. And these drivers, they know it. They pay attention to the rules. They know how it works. Some people might try some fishy moves depending on what plays out for them on this first lap. So I'll be very interested to see how this all plays out. But yeah, there's a little bit of strategy that I think is going to be played here for the folks who really know how to work the rules.
There's a lot of age-old questions. Do you want to be the pusher? Do you want to be the pushy, the predator, the prey, the first or second car in line? Well, I think anybody inside of the top 10, top 20, happy to be in the mix and are going to do everything they can because there is $5,000 on the line right here, right now, to be divided amongst your top 5 finishers. Pace car down and in. Overtime attempt to number 1. Green flag in the air for Michael Guest.
They're staying 2 by 2, but let's see if anybody goes 3 wide. Who knows? Who knows? We'll find out. Looks like somebody's trying to look in the middle a little bit. We'll find out. We're still 2 by 2, side by side, rolling through. Everybody's staying fairly clean. Not seeing a lot of pushing right now. Maybe just a little bit up front, but everybody else is staying pretty clean. Not as aggressive as I thought it was going to be, but I think it's going to change here on the next lap.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there, Jesse, and it looks like that low lane really needs to get their act together. Here comes the 12 moving down to that low lane. That's Garrett Maines, and he is going to catch that draft exactly right. He's going to get a nice little bump there from behind, try to get a little bit more momentum, but it still continues to be Michael Guest as they come out of turn 4 and head to the stripe.
Couple of cars looking 3 wide, but they're going to make it. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go.
The white flag is out. It is out. We'll see what happens next. Oh, those folks who were in the middle got left out to dry, but that top lane's working a little bit. We're seeing a lot of roughing it up in the middle right there. Oh, up front, they're pushing, but they're hanging on to it.
They're hanging on to it here at this point. They're going to spread themselves out a little bit. That's Guest in Maine. On the side, there's a big accident.
But they keep going.
Into the grass. Race leaders don't care. Foot to the floor. It's Guest on the outside. Maine's on the inside. The outside, the place to be. Can the 50 of Malik Ray make a move? He's in second. Alfredo looks low. It's all too late. And Michael Guest leads the most laps and wins the Omega Cup Spring Bowl.
Wow. What an incredible finish. I swear they were probably 3, 4, 5 wide going into that checker flag. What an incredible race. This was absolutely amazing to watch. Great job to the 45 car and their team. Guest, that a way to control the race. That a way to go take that win. $4,000.
I'm surprised Malik Ray didn't make a move earlier. Malik Ray clears the bottom right there. and then it's Alfredo who catches him sleeping. Alfredo makes the move for second. That takes away Malik Ray's really only real option to make a move on Guest, and it was because of that that they really fought for second. Malik Ray had no choice but to try the outside, but at that time it was too late. DJ, that was a big move there by Alfredo that boxed in Malik Ray and allowed Michael Guest to be almost uncontested at the line.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic there from Malik Ray. I would have expected him to pop out down to the inside, but Anthony Alfredo clearly recognized that moment of hesitation, dove down to the inside to make it work. Well, holds on to third place. A really good run race here for Anthony. He's up 25 on the day. Very, very good running there for the number 33.
Man,
great run for Anthony Alfredo. He gains a lot of spots late. Michael Thorpe Jr. just misses the payout spots as he comes home in sixth, but a race best plus 30 positions. But the story tonight is Michael Guest, race winner, walking away with the $4,000 top prize. Not often is it the driver who leads the most laps in a Daytona race that wins it, but that was the case tonight. Michael Guest leads 24, including the final lap to win this Omega Cup Spring Bowl from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. And to pay out some more than just Michael Guest, Malik Ray comes home in second place tonight, and he'll walk away with a $500 prize. Third place tonight, Anthony Alfredo gets $250. Fourth place to Garrett Maines, he'll get $150, and then fifth place, $100 will go to Spencer Burns. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll talk through your full race results and talk with your winners. Michael Guest, victorious tonight at Daytona in the Omega Cup Spring Bowl.
you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out someone just to give the Gap sauce, well, you should check out the Gap'em app.
Gap'em is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events.
And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gap'em Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gap'em app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack.
Gap'em is a one-stop shop for the car world.
Looks like I just got a match on the Gap'em app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans.
Ready, set, Gap'em.
And back live at iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway following a wild night of racing in this ERA Omega Cup Spring Bowl as we bring you back inside for post-race action. Let's get off by taking a look at your full race results tonight. Again, the results at the line unofficially. Michael Guest, your race winner. Malik Ray in second. Anthony Alfredo in third. Race Control has told us that Matthew Baker officially finishing in fourth. And then Garrett Main scored a fourth on your board, will be in fifth position. So it'll drop everybody else down a spot. Burns in the number 5 spot here. Thorpe, Newbegin. You've got Robinson, Merck, and James, your top 10.
And going into 11th, you have George in the 43. You have Sheets in the 06. Hughes in the 22 at 13th. You have Edwards in the 18 at 14th. You have Smith in the 70 and 15th. Webb in the 09 and 16th. Larson in the number 44 at 17th. Clampett, Logan Clampett in the 46 and position 18. And then you have Balmain in the 83 and 19th. And Zuniga in the 37 at 20th.
Halfway home, only a couple of cars left from there on the lead lap. It'll include Ramon, Laprade, Zelensky, Vega, Thurber, and Sturgill. And then, as mentioned, Baker scored at the line 27th. His result has been updated to 4th, so he ends up in the money. He's ahead of Edwards in 28th, Young in 29th, and Jerkovic in P30.
In 31st, it was Busa, followed by Buff, Parsons, Main, Alvis, Rajcock, Cofield, McQuaid, Ricci, and Morris to round out your 40-car field.
It is a look top to bottom at your full race results, but let's talk to the champ. Michael Guest is your winner of the ERA Omega Cup Springbowl here in Daytona. Jesse, you're talking with our winner.
Mr. Michael Guest, what is the feeling you have right now? I mean, you led more laps than anybody else. You controlled that race, and you were there at the end to finish P1, $4,000. What is the feeling you got right now?
Oh man, that was awesome. That's probably the biggest race I've won on iRacing. Just definitely thankful for Malik helping me out there. We're a really good duo at super speedways, and definitely couldn't have done that without him.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So you had someone there helping you out. At the end of the day, when you're on these super speedways, you'll make friends, you'll make enemies, you'll make friends again. It just depends on where they're at throughout the race. But you were able to manage and stay pretty clean. I mean, what were your thoughts throughout this race when you saw the carnage that was happening on different laps?
Yeah, I can't remember if I've done one of these before. I've definitely tried and maybe got wrecked out in the heats, but I really wasn't sure what to expect. I've seen more crashes in these races before, so I was expecting to need track position the whole time. Malik and I planned on pitting right away as soon as we could to make sure that we didn't have to pit again. We could keep the track position, and it definitely worked out. But man, it definitely got scary getting back to like 10th because there's definitely some stuff happening around me. I got involved in a couple, but luckily I came out all right and ended up front.
You ended up front and you ended up winning. Now you got $4,000 cash coming your way. What's your thoughts on winning that type of money on a virtual event? I mean, you're on a sim, you're at your house, and you get to win that much money. How does that feel?
Honestly, it's honestly just amazing. Like, I can't even describe it. Like, this is by far the biggest race I've won on here, and I'm just so excited.
That is absolutely incredible. Well, good job. Congrats. Major win. Many folks got to watch you today. You were live streamed on iRacing. You're all over Facebook, YouTube, you name it. You're everywhere. So good job. I mean, this is your first win with our events. Thank you so much for competing. We look forward to seeing you even more for our future upcoming events in 2023 and beyond.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the event.
So chat with your race winner tonight. Michael Guest walks away with the big money. Trying to see if we can get a word with some more drivers. Anthony Alfredo comes home in 3rd tonight. DJ, let's chat with him.
Anthony, a good run there for you. A great move at the line coming down there. It looked like it was just kind of right place, right time to make everything happen for you.
Yeah, honestly, just had to be patient for that one. So it was really hard to not want to be aggressive right there, but I didn't want to expose myself in the middle and be vulnerable to the side draft because you could just get parked by doing that unless you have a huge run and some help from behind. So we didn't have enough of that. The top got disorganized down the backstretch, lost a ton of energy, and we kind of rallied back through 3 and 4. Malik and Guest, I know, are working together, so I just tried to tail them and see if we could build some momentum off of 4, which we did, but not enough. The two of them just kind of got away, and I didn't really have anyone behind me till too late to make a move on my own. So settle for P3, but still happy with that. Had an awesome night in our Logitech G Chevy. We got wrecked early and came from the back a couple times, so we'll take it. It was actually really hard to pass, so I didn't even think we'd be in a position at the end, but we had a shot at it for sure.
Well, you stole my next question right out of my mouth. That wreck there that sent you back, I mean, did you have to take a free repair at that point, or was the car able to go on at that point?
Yeah, I actually did have to take a fast repair, so I could not afford to wreck again, and I also had 8X, so if I got another 4X, like if they wrecked coming from the line and I was in it, I was going to get a penalty and probably get put to the rear, so I was just, at that point, I was happy with P3. Like, if they wrecked, obviously, at that point, you got to stay in it and hope the smoke clears, or maybe go through the grass and get a 1X. I guess you'd be okay if you were clear, but if you got caught up in it, you would be scored as last, unfortunately. So I was just glad to have a clean run to the end because I was pretty nervous there those last 10 or 15 laps.
Well, does it change your driving style at all when you're coming up against the incident limit like that? I mean, around a restrictor plate track like this, do you find yourself backing off a little bit more, or is it business as usual?
Yeah, that's what's funny is Briar and I were talking about that, and he kind of was thinking about chilling in the back, but it was just so hard to pass that I was unsure of that, which he ended up having a penalty, so he didn't have much of a choice. He got put back there. But I'm like, at this point in the race, it's kind of go time or not. You know, if I could work up to maybe the top 10 and finish 10th, I would just be mad. I'd rather have try to race for the win and the big money prize and end up wrecking doing so or getting a penalty doing so. So that's what I did. I just kind of stuck my usual plan of being aggressive, trying to get to the front, hope people would follow me when I made moves, and a lot of them did. So we got ourselves in position. Then once we were in the top 5, I was pretty comfortable. The only thing I was afraid of was either getting wrecked from behind or them wrecking, for the win and me getting caught up in it. But at that point, I guess I was a little conservative, but it wasn't about that as much as it was trying to have a shot at making a move and not getting shucked out of line.
Well, for sure. You made it look easy out there, Anthony. Congratulations, my friend, and best of luck to you down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed watching and calling the race.
We certainly did. That was Anthony Alfredo, your third place finisher here tonight, Evan.
Fast pasta for a reason, because he's in the money. And we talked about those updated results for the drivers in the top 5. Of course, that means that with Baker coming home in 4th, he'll get the $150 prize. 5th place Garrett Maines, he'll get $100. That's not bad for an hour and a half of work. And Jesse, I'll say Anthony Alfredo, just like everybody else in the field, had to qualify in. There was no, you've driven in the Cup Series, here's a spot in the grid. Just like anybody else on the service, an equal opportunity to qualify into this race. He ends up in the money. You talk about some of the most experienced sim racers out there, Michael Guest, Malik Ray, those drivers finishing inside of the top 3 as well. So there's a point to be said that it is Daytona, it is the great equalizer, but man, when you put on events like this that draw big name talent, some of those guys can show why they're some of the best.
Most definitely. I mean, it takes a lot of patience. It does take skill. It does take strategy. Even though they say, yes, anybody can win, because that is true. Anybody can. It still does take some skill, strategy, and patience. And the folks who ended up finishing in that top 5, who are in the money, they definitely had that patience. They were able to stay in there. They were able to dodge most of the wrecks. Some of them still got caught up a little bit, but they used the fast repair to their advantage, and they were able to be there at the end. And at the end of the day, that's just what you have to be. You have to be there at the end. You're not going to win the race if you're not there. You're not going to win the race if you're 2-3 laps down because you were in the pits. You had to do this and that. You name it. I mean, these folks, they just stayed patient. They just stayed with it. They had aggression at the right points, and they found their way into the top 5, and now they're going home, actually are at home and winning some prize money.
Not too bad at all for a night out. And, DJ, I think this race works so good, right? We talk about all the different kinds of events we see here with the Omega Cup through all the different seasons, through the spring, the summer, the fall, the winter. This Springbowl, now 3 years running here at Daytona, a 60-lap sprint. It just works so good. And when you see the best of the best race against anybody else on the service who's been able to get in here, I think it's a great mix of talent and a great track and setup as well, with the format and everything to showcase that.
Oh, it certainly is. We didn't talk about it nearly enough here tonight, but everybody running on a fixed setup, so it's not like you're able to tweak and tune everything to try to fit to your liking. This is a great equalizer out on track, and I think you really saw it play out. We saw multiple drivers up in that leading pack. Really exciting stuff for all of them, and, well, I'm already counting the clock for next year to get the next one going.
Yeah, I would just say the check hasn't even been cashed yet. The money hasn't been spent, Jesse, and I'm already thinking about what is next with the eRacing Association. We talked earlier about the membership, so people can sign up, be a part of these events. If they do so, what can they look forward to and what's on the horizon?
Yep, so we have a few more events left this year. So each quarter we're putting on events with the eRacing Association. When folks head to www.eragaming.gg, they can check out what we have going on. We actually just did a nice new refresh on the website, so it looks a little bit different than what it used to look like in the past. We're continuing to do what we can to continue to upgrade what we're doing, continue to increase our memberships, increase the amount of people watching, increase everything that we're doing with these events so that they can continue to be a really really fun place for people to come, compete, win cash prizes, win other types of prizes, and just be part of a community that we're really trying to build. At the end of the day, this sim racing world is still the wild, wild west, but if we could figure out a way to continue to grow this platform and really build a true community where people have opportunity to feel like a real life professional racer, but doing it behind the screen at home, that's what we want to do. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with everybody and seeing these drivers go out there, win money, just have a good time, sometimes have bad times, but overall, I think everybody's having a good time. So overall, this has been really, really cool doing these events over the last couple of years now. We look forward to doing them for many, many years to come.
And of course, we always say it takes a village. Jesse, anybody else you wanted to give one more thanks to before we wrap things up tonight who makes this possible for you?
Most definitely want to give a huge shout out to all of our folks with the ownership group of eRacing Association. I mean, they're continuously working hard to continue to so we can continue to have these events. Also want to give a shout out to the Red List group, give a shout out to Notable Live, give a shout out to GAPM, all the folks who are small businesses out there who continue to support eRacing Association and everything we're doing. And we're continuing to look for more partners. So if there's different corporate entities out there looking to support sim racing, looking to get into the esports world, make sure you reach out to us, hit us up, and we'll talk a little bit about how we can get you involved with eRacing Association and market your products or services to the masses and continue to get you the eyeballs that you're looking for. But we're going to keep working hard over here at ERA and continue to put on these great events for these competitors to come in and compete and for the viewers to watch and enjoy themselves.
And the train's going to keep on moving. So if you want to be a part of this, make sure you reach out and do so quick, because that Summer Bowl is going to be rolling right around the corner before we even know it. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway. So many people to thank. Of course, Jesse talked about all the sponsors and everybody else in the ownership team involved with the eRacing Association as well. I want to say a big thanks to everybody behind the scenes at Podium Esports, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore. Of course, everybody else behind the scenes here tonight: Matt Casto, Kevin Johnson, Sean Yoder at the eRacing Association, Brandon Davis and Michael Hall at Race Control, and of course for our broadcast team tonight, for our producer downstairs, Ryan Bauer, for Dougie Beard providing the cameras with us, Cameron helping out on social media as well, for DJ, Jesse, myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and congratulate Michael Guest as your 2023 ERA Omega Cup Spring Bowl champion. That's it for now from the virtual World Center of Racing. Until next time, we'll catch you on Podium.
Do you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out, someone just to give the Gap sauce? Well, you should check out the Gap'em app.
Gap'em is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events.
And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gap'em Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gap'em app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack.
Gap'em is a one-stop shop for the car world.
Looks like I just got a match on the Gap'em app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans.
Ready, set, Gap'em.